This current chapter is probing very subtly into our basic inner processes. One of the main teachings of the Yoga Vasishta is that everything is notions. Everything that we consider reality is only notional. The idea that there's an external world, well, that's an idea, it's a notion. The idea that we've got a body, well, that's a notion as well. And once we appreciate that something is notional, then the idea is that we'll drop it. But what usually happens is we start adopting another notion, and that is that everything is notional. This is the mind is still active here. The mind is still working. So we don't want to adopt the attitude that everything is notional, even though this is what is being promoted much of the time. We want to get away from any kind of notions whatsoever, and we do this by being in touch with our essential awareness. This is what this chapter is doing, and it might seem rather convoluted, but we have to understand that it's pointing us to our awareness. It's leaving us with nothing to stand on intellectually. Yoga Vasishta, spiritual practice, is not about understanding, which might seem shocking because we're always told that we should always strive for understanding. But understanding means adjusting to a set of notions, a set of concepts. And we're not interested in that. That's what we're being pointed beyond. So we're often told that the ego sense is what veils the real nature of the mind. But here we're being told that both notions are equally valid. Thus of the mind in the ego sense, if one ceases, the other ceases to be. So they're interdependent, they're both notions. Hence, instead of entertaining the notion of bondage and that of liberation, abandon all cravings and through wisdom and dispassion bring about the cessation of the mind. And wisdom and dispassion are not about understanding. Wisdom is looking at the situation, and dispassion, it means going beyond it. Or wisdom means looking at our limited identifications, our identification with limited notions, and having no further interest in them. And through wisdom and dispassion bring about the cessation of the mind. And this is, the mind here is about identifying with notions, even with identifying with notions of liberation and bondage. If even the wish, may I be liberated, arises within you, the mind is revived. And the mind, entertaining other notions, creates a body. Then there arise other concepts like I do this, I enjoy this, and I know this. You can't just have one notion, even if it's a notion of liberation. Notions snowball, they produce other notions. They're all interdependent. All these concepts are unreal, like a mirage in the desert. However, since their reality is not realized, the illusion attracts the mind even as the mirage deludes and attracts an animal. But if it is realized as an illusion, it does not attract the mind, even as a mirage does not delude one who knows it to be a mirage. Just as a lamp utterly dispels darkness, the knowledge of truth completely uproots concepts and conditioning. A knowledge of truth is not about knowing another notion. Truth is not a notion. Truth is the directing of the attention onto the attention itself. It's the self knowing the self. When one sincerely questions, this body is but inert substance, why should one seek pleasure for its sake? All cravings drop away. When thus the cravings drop away, one experiences great bliss and supreme peace within oneself. What happens is you get in touch with your own sense of being, your own sense of value, and you don't need to fill your life up with possessions and demonstrations of what a great person you are. You realize your own inner value. So this great bliss and supreme peace, it can be described in lots of different ways. Bliss and peace tend to be what's focused on, but it could be love. You could experience great love, the great love that's inherent in everything that is going on. The sage of self-knowledge attains courage and stability and shines in his own glory. He enjoys supreme satisfaction in himself. He is enlightened, and this inner light shines brightly within him. He beholds the self as self of all, omnipresent, the Lord of all and formless, yet pervading all forms. It's non-different from all forms. Remembering the past, when he was swayed by lust, he laughs at his own past ignorance. It's like when you've come through an addiction and you wonder what on earth you were about. The things which seemed so important in the past, in which you might have been obsessed by, now are seen as amusing even, or somewhat incredulous at the energy and emotional investment you put into your previous interests. He is far from evil company, freed from mental distress, but firmly established in self-knowledge. Well, he's certainly far from the influence of evil company. I don't think the enlightened person would be making the distinction much of the time between evil and good company. But certainly the enlightened person will be far from the influence of evil company. He is glorified by all, he is sought by all, he is applauded by all, but he remains indifferent. He neither gives nor does he take, he does not insult or praise anyone, he does not rejoice or grieve. We're getting into some rather dubious territory here in describing the behaviour of the enlightened one. You can't really do that, but I think what's being done here is some kind of encouragement here just to get on with the spiritual practice, even though these things are not going to be sufficiently motivating to somebody who's established in the self or who's touched the self. He neither gives nor does he take, he does not insult or praise anyone, he does not rejoice or grieve. I think we could probably find sufficient passages in the Yoga Vasishta to contradict all of these. He is a sage, liberated while living, who has abandoned all motivated actions, who is free from conditioning, and who has given up all desires and hopes. But I think we can go along with that one. The sage has abandoned all motivated actions. This is in the sense that the sage isn't looking to get anything for himself out of what he does. O Ram, abandon all desires and remain at peace within yourself. No delight in the world is comparable to the delight that will fill your heart when you completely abandon all desires and hope. Not in kingship, nor in heaven, nor in the company of the beloved one, does one experience such delight as when one is free from hope. And hope is living in the future, not in the present. You live in the fullness of your own being.